Today's video, I want to take y'all along around our property, around the kitchen, and harvesting some of our crops, preserving some of our crops, canning some of our crops, and just how life has looked these last few weeks with a newborn. There is another new baby on our homestead, and that is our sweet little foal. One of our mares did have her foal 5 days after I had our little son, so that was a sweet addition. We had babies at the same time, so it's always fun. I always enjoyed all the babies around the homestead. They're just so sweet and cute and just such a fun thing for the kids to enjoy. So we are harvesting corn first of all. So we don't grow tons of corn. It looks like a lot of corn in this field, but a lot of this was grown for our animals, our pigs, and then we do harvest what does well, and we'll put a little bit up and have a little bit for the summer, like grilling season. But for the most part, a lot of our corn, the byproduct of corn, is for our animals, our pigs, our cows, and I'll kind of show y'all some of that as we get this corn harvested. So this is an activity that we always invite our kids in, is harvesting in the garden. They are still very young, so we don't ever force them, and I don't ever plan to force our kids to help with us in the garden. I've talked about this before, actually, about gardening and children, and how past generations now don't want to garden because they were forced to garden when they were children, because it was truly a means of, do you eat or do you not eat if you don't help with the garden? We would still survive if this corn had not produced this year. We do have a grocery store. We do have the means to go to a store and buy food. So I've never seen the need to force my kids to help. However, we show a lot of enthusiasm, my husband and I, about the garden, about harvesting, about preserving, canning, putting things in the freezer, all the things around our home. So we show a lot of enthusiasm around our children and pretty much make it a really exciting thing for our family, and our kids want to join in. So I just encourage you, if you struggle with having your kids want to help with certain things, the more enthusiasm you show in inviting them into the process, whatever it may be, the more likely they're going to want to help and actually really enjoy it. So this was the most exciting day for my children. They're so thrilled to be out here helping us. My son had been asking for several weeks, once he saw that corn getting tall, when we could harvest the corn, when he could help shuck the corn. So that's just my encouragement for gardening with children. I've talked about this before, like I said, but that's just kind of our approach, is making it exciting and fun and doing it together as a whole family. Sweet little baby is wrapped up sleeping, as he is most of the time these days, so it's really actually easy to get things done with this newborn age. It gets a little trickier as they get older, I find, but newborn age is pretty easy, just to strap them onto you in the wrap and get to work. So we are shucking the corn as well. This is what I was saying. My son was so excited to shuck corn. He was actually sad that we were doing it in the daytime, because last year he got to stay up late with mom and dad and shuck the corn, but we did it all as a family this year and didn't stay up late at night doing it this time. Some of the bad ears of corn will actually go to the pigs, and then all of the shucks will go to our cow, Sunshine, and she is so excited for this special food delivery, as you can tell. So I just love having a garden for ourselves, but also for our animals. And then once we get the garden cleaned up a little bit more, she will actually be allowed to roam into the garden area where you just saw us harvesting the corn, and clean that up even more. So it's really nice and just a really cool cycle to show our children of how you grow something, you harvest it, then your animals come back behind you and eat it, and then end up making milk for you, butter, cream, pork, bacon, whatever it may be, whatever animal we're feeding it to. So this was a fun day of doing the corn. Again, this is something that had to get done, so I just joined my family, put baby in the wrap, and joined my family in doing it. So I did want to give you a glimpse of what our kitchen looks like most of the time now in this garden summer season. Nothing is ever really clean. There's always something on the counter. My counters are never clear and free like I like them to be. We have corn going on, peaches going, onions going. There's always something on the counter. And this was a rare moment when my husband was able to take a little nap with the baby, and I was able to get something done hands-free. That doesn't happen often, because most of the time he's napping on me and my husband is doing something else. But I'm going to show y'all how I get the corn off the cob to put it up to freeze. So we do some cream corn, just a few, not a lot. Cream corn is actually not worth it to me to sit there and cream it. My husband does that job, but this is the easiest way to do it to me, is to get an old bundt pan. This is an old bundt pan. I only have 4 corn because it's like stained, it's scratched up, it's like a non-stick, and I don't really want to be cooking in it anyway, so I strictly save this pan for corn. So you just put the cob right in the middle of the bunt, and clean it with a knife. I have a very dull knife because I've kind of not trust myself with a sharp knife doing this kind of really close encounter stuff. So you could use a sharper knife and probably get a cleaner cut for your corn, but this works wonderfully. It catches the corn as it flies off everywhere, because I found that trying to do it a different way, corn just flies everywhere. You end up with a huge mess. So maybe you can take a little tip for getting your corn off the cob if you're needing a little hack there. And then I'll just put this into freezer bags and freeze it. Like I said, we don't put up a lot of corn. You get a lot of corn, but it actually doesn't yield very much to put up because there's not that much I find on one cob. So this actually only got us, I believe, 4 quarts of corn, just that harvest y'all saw us do in the field. So it felt like a lot picking it. A lot of them weren't really good ears of corn, so they went to our pigs. Nothing got wasted. So that's what I just love about having animals on your property that you are raising for meat. Now I'm going to show y'all our onion process. So we grew onions. Onions get planted in the fall, or we plant them in the fall, grow them through the winter. You can plant them in the spring, but you can't start from seed. So we started from seed in the fall, grew them over the winter, and then are just now harvesting them. So we have saved some onions whole. We haven't completely gotten down the storage solution for that, so we found it best to chop them and freeze them like this. So I love this little tool. It's like an onion slicer. Strictly only use it for onions. I usually hate gadgets in my kitchen. I just find that using a knife works best for everyday kitchen work, but for harvesting there are a few gadgets that I do like, and this is a really good one. It dices up your onion very small, and then I flash freeze it on this cookie sheet with a little parchment liner, and then put it into Ziploc bags to freeze. So yes, I do use Ziploc bags to long-term storage some things, not everything. We do reuse our Ziploc bags, so it's not like a single-use item in our home, but I don't worry about our food being in plastic for that little bit of time. We'll go through these onions in probably about 3 months. We use a lot of onions in cooking. When you're cooking from scratch, onions are in just about every meal. So it looks like a lot of onions that I'm putting up, but like I said, it might last us 3 or 4 months. Then we'll have to just buy our onions from the store again. We are working on growing onions for the year. This is our 2nd year growing onions, so we're still trying to get down how many onions we actually need to plant to get us through the entire year. So this is always fun to put onions up, flash freeze them, then put them in the bags, and then have them for soups and cooking throughout the year. Moving to another day, we are working on tomato sauce. Now, I've actually shared a full tutorial on tomato sauce and how I put it up, so I won't go into full detail here, but again, it is so easy to feed baby, get him content, and then just put him in the wrap and he drifts right to sleep, and I'm hands-free to get lots of work done. I encourage mamas with newborns, first of all, I encourage you to spend lots of time with your newborn, feeding them, looking them into their eyes, and just getting to know them. But there are times where mamas have to get up and get something done. So I encourage you to learn baby wearing. It is a learned skill. It's not a difficult skill to learn, but it is going to take a little bit of time to learn depending on the wrap you choose. But once you get it down and your baby understands that when they're in the wrap, it's rest time, it's peaceful, there's no need to fidget and fret. It is so easy just to wrap them up and get things done around the house, in the kitchen. And then when they're awake again, spend that quality time with them, feeding them, talking to them, looking at them. If you have only one baby, I encourage you to sleep when baby is sleeping, as people always say, or at least sleep some of the times when baby is sleeping. But when you have other kids, 3 other kids as we have, and a garden and things to put up for harvest, it's not really possible to sleep when baby sleeps. I mean, I guess I could, but none of this stuff would get done, and all of these crops would be going to waste. My other children would not be getting as much of my time and attention, and I want to give that to them. So that's my encouragement there for baby wearing. And then when baby is awake, you can put them in some sort of, we like free movement containers, not really true baby containers. This is a bouncing seat where baby can move himself with his own motion. He's not like mechanical, totally not like necessity, you could just lay them on a blanket on the floor. I do that as well a lot too. This is just easy and it stays clean all the time because my other kids aren't wallering all over it. That is just a little encouragement for baby wearing and getting things done with baby. So we have moved on to peaches. I was talking to y'all about baby wearing and didn't even realize that we had moved on to canning peaches. So there are so many things that come in at one time in canning season for us. I think I mentioned y'all before the baby was born, I was getting all of the green beans done, and I was so thankful that I got that one harvested crop put up, preserved before baby arrived, because I knew I had a lot more coming in afterwards. So to can peaches, I think I've also shared a tutorial on this. I know I have in the past. So I'll link that below if you are interested in how I can peaches, but I actually use my Instant Pot. Peaches are a fruit, so they don't actually need to be pressure canned. There are certain things that need to be pressure canned and certain things that can be water bath canned. So to make it go quicker, I actually use my water bath stock pot to water bath can, and then I also use the Instant Pot. It will can 4 pints at one time. And peaches are kind of time consuming because you have to blanch them to get the skins off, then put them in cold water, let them cool to stop the cooking process, kind of slice them into little peach slices, then put them in the can, put them in a solution of, I use honey and water. You can also use sugar and water. Then get them in the cans, then get them into the water bath canning process. So peaches, I find, are the most time-consuming process, but our family loves fresh peaches. Only way we can eat them throughout the year is canning them like this. So we make cobblers with them. We add them to breakfast, dinners. We have peaches all the time. I love peaches, so it's really convenient to can them this way. Did also make a peach cobbler at my husband's request, since it's peach season, to have a fresh peach cobbler. On this day, I did not have ice cream, so we just started with yogurt, I believe, but you're gonna see in a minute, I make another peach cobbler recipe, and we do have homemade ice cream. So that is always a good summer treat, is cobbler and ice cream, all sourced from fresh ingredients. So I'll just kind of walk you through the peach process. So here I am putting peaches into the jar after they've been sliced. You see I have another bowl of peaches cooling that just came out of the blanching water. Then those will get sliced, put into the jars, and this is just kind of like a half day to full day long project. I just keep rolling with it. I have my other 3 kids outside with my husband, or they're at quiet time. At some point they come in and help me, but it's easy just to roll with peaches and not stop. I've found that stopping and starting with peaches, you just kind of get frustrated because they're a really sticky mess, and you just keep having to clean things up between the canning process. So I've just found if I can find a specified time to get to work and just go at it, it makes peaches a lot easier to knock out for canning. Later that afternoon, my daughter did want to come in and help, and yes, it would have been easier just to tell her to go play, go do something else, and if I do that, I'm not teaching her anything, teaching her responsibility in the kitchen, and I do want to teach that in my children. I've talked about that before, about how I try my best to have patience and not run my kids out of the kitchen when I'm working, because yes, it slows me down, yes, it makes things messier, but it's quality time I get to spend with them and teach them something and invite them into my area, because the kitchen is my area. I'm in here the most. They want to be around me, so inviting them to help me, again, showing enthusiasm and inviting them in, is teaching them so much more than just sending them away to do something on their own, when they truly want to be with us. And at this young age, they want to join us. And if we continually send them away when they're this little, they're going to learn that their job is to go away and do something else on their own while mama works in the kitchen. And when they're older and they actually would be really good helpers, like when they're 8, 10, 12, they're going to have learned that mom doesn't want me in the kitchen, I go play, she does the cooking, there's no need for me to be in there and help. And then you're going to be begging them, come help me in the kitchen. They're not going to want to. It's going to be more of a chore at that point. I mean, I'm still in the young years of it, so I hope that the bringing them in the kitchen pays off. I've seen many mamas who have done this from when their little ones were young, and they say it pays off, so hopefully it will. So she actually is a pretty good helper at this point. And I'm just glad I've allowed her to come in and help, my son as well, and then my younger daughter, and then our new little son. I'm sure he'll be wanting to help with things in the kitchen as well too when he is a little bit older. We make our homemade ice cream with egg yolks, sugar, milk, cream, and vanilla, and it is so delicious. It's the best ice cream I've ever had. I have a video where I share how to make our homemade ice cream. I think I make chocolate in that video, but this is the same exact recipe. I just don't add the cacao powder because we are having this alongside a peach cobbler, so we wanted a nice, refreshing vanilla homemade ice cream that turns out so good every time. I'm using the old school ice cream maker where you have to put it in the can, add the dry ice, the rock salt, the ice, and wait for an hour. And it actually is really rewarding for my kids to learn that ice cream is a process and they have to wait for it. But I do want a quicker method because we make ice cream multiple times a week in the summer. It's just so good, and especially when we have lots of extra cream and milk from our cow, or at least we do this year. And it's such a treat. We enjoyed an afternoon peach cobbler and homemade ice cream. Again, I will link the recipes I used below. This was actually a blackberry peach cobbler. My husband had went to the farmer's market and got some fresh blackberries for us. So we made a blackberry peach cobbler and thoroughly enjoyed this. I want to add, I don't eat meals like this all the time in the postpartum. This was just trying this by this bowl I actually went to my husband to finish. So we got a lot of peaches put up. I'm now checking the seals. It's the next morning. I do store my canned goods with the rings off. It's just easier to detect if a seal has broken. So you see me lifting the jars here. That is just checking for a good, strong seal. You can also do a little tap test. You'll see me in a minute tap on all of the jars with a pin. And if you hear a tin hollow sound, you'll know that jar did not seal properly, and you'll need to just, it's not wasted. You just put it in the fridge and use it. Go ahead and use it right away. So I actually only had one jar right here that did not seal properly and just went into the fridge, and we'll go ahead and eat that in the next week or so, and it'll be just fine. There's always one or two jars that doesn't seal, and that's okay. So I knocked out one round of peaches. We'll have another round of peaches coming in a couple of weeks, but this is just how postpartum has looked. It's been a lot of resting, but then working in the kitchen, but nothing difficult. I'm not actually out doing lots of the harvesting. My husband does most of that. I kind of just go along for fun, to be with the family. But I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of the garden harvesting, a little bit of us working in the garden, preserving vegetables, and I will talk to y'all in my next video.